Aloha, inspired moneymakers. Welcome to Inspired Money, the show where we strive to do more with our money. Happy Valentine's Day. We have a special lunchtime live stream today. And I was reading that more than 1 in 4 couples identify money as their greatest relationship challenge. And 45% of partners admit that they argue about money at least occasionally. Another interesting article that I saw this morning is that I read that there's a new dating app called Score, and it's advertised as the dating app for people with good credit. It requires users to have a score of, I think, a 675 credit score or above to join. So really interesting to see how money and romance mix. So this episode's for you no matter where you are with your credit score. We're going to discuss navigating life's major milestones and transitions. We can prepare for these pivotal moments and ensure financial stability along the way. And we've got some really big topics like the importance of securing your child's future through smart financial planning for education. We're going to share strategies to adapt your retirement plan to life's changes. Plus, we're going to discuss navigating estate planning and even preparing for health emergencies, because real life is always full of surprises. So you can see how a financial plan is it's a dynamic process. If you have questions along the way, ask away in the chat. We are live not only on YouTube today, but also on LinkedIn. And we've got a stellar panel, which you can see. So welcome them in. Let me go through some quick intros. We have Mary Beth Storjohann, CFP. She's co-CEO of the Abacus Wealth Partners, author, speaker, podcast host with 18 years of financial industry experience, recognized for her advocacy in women's empowerment, diversity, equity, and inclusion. She's committed to aligning money with values and making financial advice accessible to all. Welcome, Mary Beth.
Thanks for having me.
We also have Stephanie McCullough, founder of Sophia Financial. She leverages 14 years as a financial advisor to empower women in making informed financial decisions and alleviating money stress. Stephanie advocates for women's financial literacy, and in her free time, she enjoys cooking, sailing, travel, and reading mystery novels. Stephanie, welcome.
Thanks, Andy. Happy to be here.
I'm so excited. We've got Joe Saul-Sehy back on the Inspired Money podcast. I think he was here for episode 0 when we were testing out the live stream and having all kinds of technical difficulties. Hopefully that is past us, and Joe has brought like good mojo, good technology mojo to the show today. Joe is a financial media expert and creator of Stacking Benjamins, a top-rated personal finance podcast, hailed by Kiplinger as the best personal finance podcast. As a speaker and educator, Joe empowers audiences to overcome financial worries, grow their wealth, and become confident leaders in their financial lives. And best of all, he always makes talking about money fun and approachable. Joe, welcome.
Good to see you again, man. Thanks for having me back.
I'm glad that you could make it. And then rounding out our panel, we have Josh Bannerman, another certified financial planner. He's founder and managing partner of Bannerman Wealth, offering nearly 25 years of experience in financial planning and entrepreneurship. He co-founded the Stacking Benjamins podcast, where he is the other guy, OG, sharing his knowledge while prioritizing family and enjoying hobbies like golf and flying. Josh, where are you flying these days?
Oh my gosh. I looked at my schedule for the next 8 weeks, and I think I've got 11,000 miles to fly between now and the first of May. So basically everywhere from West Virginia to Utah and everywhere in between. So a busy schedule. But
you should see Andy how tired his arms are.
Yeah. This is the stuff I have to put up with every single week on Stacking Benjamins, by the way.
It brings so much joy, though. There's so much joy.
Amazing.
Well, we look forward to seeing Josh flex his biceps later in the episode. Welcome everybody. Let's go straight into segment 1. Relocating for a job is a major financial decision that goes beyond moving expenses. it's important to consider the cost of living differences in the new area, including housing, food, and healthcare. This transition isn't just about personal adaptation. It also impacts your family, from your partner's employment opportunities to children's education. Every aspect needs evaluation. Will the salary in the new location cover the increased or different living costs? Is there room for professional growth? For families, the quality and options of local schools are a significant factor. Relocation might mean better education opportunities or the need for new adjustments. Healthcare is another crucial consideration. Each location might offer different healthcare benefits or require new insurance plans. Relocating isn't just about a new job. It's about adapting to a new community and way of life. Weighing these factors ensures that your move is not just financially sound, but also enriching for your personal and family life. So a shout out to Tina, who said, "What a great panel lineup. I'm as excited as you are." I don't know what it was about this morning. I was reading a lot of articles. I don't know what I was doing, but I was just reading an article about Gen Z workers and how many are unsatisfied with their jobs compared to their Gen X colleagues. So people are definitely, or younger people in particular, are moving jobs quite frequently. And oftentimes they're chasing the money. They know that they're looking for jobs with the opportunity to be paid more, and they're willing to move if need be. So let me ask Stephanie, in your experience, what unique financial planning considerations should people prioritize when relocating for a job? And is there any advice specific for women?
You know, one of the big conversations we have with clients all the time is how much cash should you have? How much should you have sitting in the bank? Which people often are surprised about because we're, financial advisors are supposed to be the investment people. But it's really important to know, on a regular basis, how much cash you should have. And then anytime there's looming uncertainty, like a potential job change or a move where you could have maybe an interruption in income or higher expenses due to the move, we always recommend you have extra cash, right? Whatever your usual cash cushion is, build that up for the months before the move, because things are always going to cost more than you expect. There's going to be unexpected things. And hey, if you get through it and you didn't use as much cash as you thought, awesome, then you can reinvest it. But that's one thing we always talk through. Any guidelines on how much that cash should be normally and then what it should be preparing for a job change? Normally it's a custom conversation, but we start with that standard rule of thumb, 3 to 6 months of your living expenses just to have in the bank in case something blows up, right? In case your office gets swallowed by a sinkhole or, all of a sudden you have expensive dental work that's not covered. So kind of the 3 to 6 months. And then, of course, we always talk with people, right? If their job is somewhat uncertain, or if they're on commission instead of salary, or if they're self-employed, then we always up that number. Definitely a case by case. Mary Beth, what are some common oversights that people make when estimating the cost of living adjustments for a new area?
I'd say if you're relocating to a different state, state taxes is often overlooked in terms of, are you going to, from a state tax, income tax free state to, are you moving to California, for example, and then you're going to see a big increase there. I think that's a big one. The other one is the benefits. A lot of people, as a financial planner, a lot of clients don't actually know what their true benefits package is. What is all of the free money that you might be leaving on the table, and how much of your health insurance, for example, does your employer actually cover at this point in time? How much of a match do you have on your retirement plan currently? And then what is the offer on the other side? So I think the overlooked aspects typically come in the form of benefits in terms of tax savings and in terms of an actual, as Stephanie mentioned, in terms of the actual cost to relocation. So there is going to be somewhat of a break even. You might think in your mind, hey, I'm going to make $40,000 more. But once you factor in taxes, benefits adjustments, if you're having to move or, whatever the relocation costs are, if they're not supplementing it, it might take a bit to recover or to break even on what you have to invest up front to make that change.
Josh, from your perspective, are there key elements to consider in the job offer negotiation process?
Yeah, I was thinking about this not only from that component and all the financial stuff, but also a piece of this is on the emotional aspect of it. We moved. It's interesting that we're having this discussion today because we moved exactly 10 years ago today to Dallas from Michigan. And when we moved, I remember I was kind of leading the pack, right? I went ahead of the family and checked into the apartment. We were moving into an apartment from our house. And I remember walking into this apartment feeling like, what a letdown, what a step back in terms of, you know, my ability to provide for our family, of like, how did we go from this beautiful house that we lived in to this teeny tiny apartment, and then kind of grappling with that and recognizing, hey, it's going to be okay. And then thinking, okay, this is only like a 3-month deal and we'll be out of here soon. We stayed in that apartment for 15 months. So before we found our house, which is great now, but I think back to that and I think like how I felt about it, but then also all of the stuff that I thought was going to happen super fast, like, oh, the actual move was going to happen in 3 days, and it took 2.5 weeks. And I thought that the change from apartment to a permanent house was a couple of months, and it was like, no, that's 15 months. The adjustment for kids in school, there was like all these like little things that were unrelated to money that I wasn't prepared for. I think, you know, we did all this stuff of saving extra cash and accounting for the we moved from a taxable state to a tax-free state, so accounted for that. That was a good part of the move. But it was all the other things that I thought were a lot different that nobody really talked about, because all we do is talk about the money component of it. And I feel like there's a lot of other stuff that goes with that. And also thinking about like all of the other, you know, all of your friends and the things that you normally do, like you go to the coffee shop or you go to the gym or you go to the grocery store, and like kind of your daily rhythm is just all brand new. It's a whole, I think you have to give yourself a lot of grace around the transition.
It sounds almost like a renovation. It's like, it's going to take longer. It's going to cost more.
I did one of those too.
Managing your expectations.
I don't advise any of these things actually, but yes, it's good on the back end, the renovation for sure. You're renovating yourself.
I'd like to, Andy, pile onto all these comments, because I think this conversation so far has been so good. You know, on Stephanie's point about having cash, I've moved several times, and every time I think I'm going to go to Lowe's once when I move into the new house, and I maybe go, I don't know, 86, 87 times. Like I feel like by the time I'm done with the Lowe's and all the changes I want to make to my new house, whatever it is, like all the little tiny surprises add up so much. I feel like that old show Cheers, you know, where the guy comes in and everybody goes, Norm. Like I felt like I went into Lowe's and everybody goes, Joe, you're back again. I wish they had frequent flyer miles. And, you know, to Mary Beth's point about just the relocation cost, one thing that we found out in 2 of our moves is that on one of those moves, relocation cost was not covered and we didn't question it. On the second move that we made, we just asked for it as a negotiation tool during deciding whether we were going with this new company or not, and they covered it. And it was during that second move that we realized that that is something that a lot of people don't ask for, these relocation expenses that you can totally put on the table with your next move. And then to Josh/OG's point, I always call him OG, so I'm probably going to do it all day today. I love the fact that he moved into the apartment, even though it was tiny, because a huge, huge mistake I see people make when they move to a new town, and I've seen it over and over and over, is you move to the new town, you have no idea what the vibe is in any part of this new place that you've moved, and you buy a house because it seems really affordable, or it just, but you know nothing. And then you realize you're living on the opposite side of the town that you really wanted to be in. You're not in the school district that you should have been in. So I love the fact that for 15 months that OG and his family stayed in this apartment to get a feel for the area they were going to be, and then make a much better decision later on down the road.
It's so disorienting too when you move to a different community, because sometimes you don't even really appreciate it we moved from Metro Detroit to Dallas, which is like moving to all of the people in the state of Michigan into, one area. All the population of Michigan can fit into the DFW Metroplex. And it's a different, to your point, it's a different vibe. So you look at the commute, right? My wife was working downtown. We're like, oh, that's like 15 miles. That's pretty reasonable. And then you talk to people and they're like, oh my gosh, you live where? That's going to take you 45 minutes each way. And you don't really factor that in because you don't have a sense of what's going on. And every community is like that, whether that's, the school district or or how close it is to the grocery store or whatever. You don't really feel that until you've just kind of been there for a while and kind of lived your life and see what you like and what you don't like.
That's great advice. It does often take firsthand experience, and it takes a little time to really understand a new place. Let's go to segment 2. In financial planning, preparing for educational cost is best begun early. It requires budgeting, savings, and understanding the various tools available. At the core of this preparation are 529 plans, tax advantage savings for future education costs. They come in 2 forms: prepaid tuition plans, which lock in today's tuition rates for the future, and education savings plans, versatile investment accounts for a range of educational expenses. Opening a 529 plan or similar savings account when a child is young can make a significant difference. Education often involves loans. Navigating federal versus private loans, interest rates, and repayment options are crucial. Scholarships and grants can play a major role in easing financial burdens. This planning should integrate into broader financial strategies, balancing with retirement savings and emergency funds. The aim is to create a holistic financial plan where education funding complements other life goals, ensuring a balanced and financially secure future for both parents and children. All right, this topic hits home for me. I have 3 kids who are in high school, in middle school. Joe, you sent twins to college. You had a twofer. In what ways can families make education savings fun and engaging for both the parents and the children?
Well, I don't know about fun, but
come on, you can make everything fun.
Well, that price tag is so high that it's difficult. The piece of that we forget. You talk about children, and I think if you work with your family on really thinking about the future and what they want to do. My kids, when they were maybe sophomores in high school, we started to visit colleges. We started getting a feel for what that was. We also showed them what the price tag was and started talking about the money that we'd save to put away. But the piece that people forget about, I think, is actually a little bit wider than your question, Andy, which is getting the outer family involved. And what I mean is I had somebody last week ask me a question like, how do I stop the grandparents from giving my kids this stuff that fills their rooms with, just junk that the kids aren't going to use, that they're not going to play with, that they're not going to have any fun with, and get them to contribute to a 529 plan. And this woman I was talking to, she goes, oh, I said that to my mom. I'd really like you to contribute to their 529 plan. And grandma said, well, that's really boring. And that doesn't sound fun at all. And I said, you know what she should have said back, and it obviously depends on your relationship with your family. I'm obviously known as being a little sarcastic and having fun. And frankly, I also think you can say almost anything you want with a smile on your face. And you can say, I told her that she should say, well, it's a lot more fun than having a ton of student loans in college, which they're going to have if you keep buying them this stuff they're not going to use and don't help them get through college. And she actually thought that was a great idea. But I think empowering grandparents and relatives that to stop with the birthday gifts and begin helping with stuff that really going to make a difference in kids' lives.
I like your approach. I think that, introducing the time value of money on like stuffed animals,
right,
not that interesting.
My daughter
Beanie
would disagree.
babies.
My daughter would disagree. She would disagree. 8-year-old. I just want you to know. We have 200 probably.
Well, I think it's funny. It is funny, Mary Beth, because in one way you're right? Like putting money into a kid's 529 plan. Like my kid's like, what? You stiffed me on the birthday present? Like, really?
Yes.
I should have gotten something. But my parents learned really quickly there's kind of a halfway. You know, there's an experience that they'll have that they can remember, because experiences appreciate while the toys on the ground depreciate in value. And then the second piece was a contribution to college. So I think there is a middle ground there that we should be exploring.
Best of both worlds.
Agreed.
Mary Beth, what's your approach? Any innovative financial tools or strategies that you recommend for funding a child's education?
You know, it's a 529 plan is always the way, you know, that we kick it off. But really, it's about starting with the conversation about how, if you're in a couple, how you both feel about paying for college. So I myself paid my own way through college. My husband actually went to the Naval Academy, so he had to give time to the government. We covered our costs. So when I came to the picture with student loans, though, I was like, yes, we're saving for our children. My husband thought, no, we're not. So it was really about, you know, just as a case study, bringing him on board, talking about costs, educating him. And so you have the same with any clients, any couples, making sure they're on board, understanding, you know, what feels reasonable as parents that you want to contribute, understanding the student loan aspect of it all, and talking through, and then it goes 529. I do have clients who still are worried about, hey, what if my kid doesn't go to school? What are the options? Or hey, how do I cover trade schools? What are these different options? And so we usually do 529s, and then we can also do the after-tax savings as well. There's not actually a benefit there to doing that account, but that gives some flexibility. You know, hey, my kid might be an entrepreneur and might not go to college. What are my options? And so we're usually talking through that with the parents to understand what they want to pay, what they want to allocate funds towards. But there are a variety of options, and it's really about your kid's personality, which comes out as you get older. So it usually can start with, you know, slow and steady automatic savings as the kids are younger. Like mine are 6 and 8 right now. I have no idea what they're going to do, so we're setting aside into 529s. We might pivot though. We might find out, you know, one wants to start a cookie business. Who knows? But, you know, you pivot along the way, but you start planning now. The earlier you save, the better. I mean, I look at my daughter's 529 account right now, and we're just doing, you know, a small, you know, couple $100 a month into that account. And what the balance has become over time with that growth is amazing for what you can do and the impact you can make in terms of saving on student loans.
Hopefully it's an AI cookie business.
Yes, exactly.
Stephanie, are there common pitfalls in education financial planning that should be avoided?
Well, you know, it's so interesting because contrary to my bio, I've been doing this for 26 years, and I've seen such a difference in how families are approaching it now. The numbers, the price is just so astronomical that families seem to be more open to thinking about, well, maybe they go to community college for a couple of years and then transfer. I have a very good friend who lives in California, and you can go to a local community college 2 years. And I think if you have a certain GPA, you can transfer into some of the UC schools. Like, they're looking at different options. One of my clients is kind of in the tech world. She's like, my kid's not going to go to college, right? He's going to learn to program, and then he's going to do his own thing. So one of the books that I recommend to people all the time is The Price You Pay for College by Ron Lieber. He's got a lot of great information kind of about how the whole system works, but also he encourages families to think about what's important about college to you. What is it that you're expecting to get out of it? Is it the prestige of a big name on the diploma on the wall? Is it hobnobbing with the hoi polloi? Or is it one-on-one interactions with faculty? Is it, you know, just the experience of being an independent person living on your own? Getting clear as a family on what the value is to you helps you then make choices. There are 3,000 colleges or more in this country, and so many people only focus on the top very small percentage. There's kind of a broader world out there.
Yeah, I totally agree that we don't widen the lens enough. And I also think, and because that decreases the cost of college, the other way I think that we don't think about decreasing the cost of college, and I think a lot of people mess this up, we don't understand how expected family contribution works as we're saving for college. Because once I knew how expected family contribution worked with a lot of my clients back when I was a financial planner, I would then use expected family contribution to help them set up their savings so that we got our fair share. I certainly don't want to cheat a system, but I want to make sure that if I'm eligible for something, I'm not a victim of having money in the wrong place. And what's funny is I thought it was super complicated when I first started learning about expected family contribution. It isn't, and it actually makes sense. You know, parents are allowed to have a little bit of money as a reserve. You're allowed to have some money for your own retirement. I think knowing where to put your money is a huge part of winning with lowering the cost of college as well.
Josh, what do you see working with clients? Because I hear stories where the parents are taking loans and putting off their retirement for the sake of their kids' education.
Yeah, I mean that can be super frustrating as you're looking through trying to work through financial planning with people, because a lot of times there's a lot of stuff to be done, but not all of the money or resources available to do all of the things. I can't tell you how much the time value of doing a little bit all the time matters. I have a nephew who's he's a junior in college this year. And when he was born, my wife and I started just a little bit, $50 a month into a 529 plan. We forgot all about it, except, saw that it came out and went to the 529, but never got the statements, didn't really pay any attention to it. As he was starting his journey into college, we got to kind of live vicariously through him in terms of the offers and the scholarships and the grants and all the different combinations of schools and cost structure that he was being offered. And he selected the one that gave him the best value. And then he said, I said to him, I said, well, we have some money set aside for you. And I looked and we had over $15,000 in a 529 plan in 18 years. With $50 a month contributions. It's just, which was the better part of 2.5 years worth of his out-of-pocket costs, all because of $50 a month. Now that's not zero, but it's also not a lot. And I'm right there with you, Andy. My kids are 17, 15, and Caroline will be 8. So it's we're breathing down the neck of writing big checks for college, but it's all of the stuff that we've talked about here, I think, is super important. And getting the kids engaged in this, we discussed it with our kids early enough that, there's 2 ways to pay for school. One of the ways is for you to get a scholarship or a grant, and another way is to earn the money and write a check. So if you want to work, if you want to have a job through school, that's totally fine. But if you're not going to work, we expect that your job is to be great at school. And that's the trade-off. If you don't want to have to have a part-time job, and you can or don't have to, but if you don't, then your job is to make sure that you're great at school. So they've largely done that, which hopefully will be they'll be rewarded for being good students in their decisions. So,
and we partially covered your face there, Josh.
That's
for
okay.
A second.
That's kind of par for the course.
We were showing that Tina has a child who had a combination of AP credits, scholarships, a work co-op, and student loans. And a second and third child have a combination of community college and MET plans for university. That is great. Yeah. I know that
all of those things matter, right? All of those things are, everybody's going to be great at different things. If you're a 4.0 student and test really well and get a 1600 on your SAT, that's awesome. You're going to get a lot of money from universities in different places to go to offset some of that cost. If you're an entrepreneur, you should be out, doing your entrepreneur things that generate revenue and generate good value for people around you, and that'll be how you pay for school. So there's no right or wrong way to do it, but you
Josh,
definitely have to think about it.
Any comment on how families can navigate the complex world of scholarships, grants, and financial aid?
I wish that I had the silver bullet for this one, because we are like at the starting line for it. No, I don't have anything to add other than I know that there's 7 million opportunities. And near as I can tell, and most of the stuff that I read, most people just barely scratch the surface on opportunities and don't take full advantage. I'll give you a great example of this. My middle kid is a freshman in high school this year, and last year part of their school curriculum was they had to write an essay about, I don't know, it was something like what the flag means to them or something patriotic. And what we didn't know was that they were submitting all of these to the VFW and to various veterans organizations. And the essay that my son wrote received 3rd place in the state of Texas. And he got an award. We didn't even know it was happening. He got an award and a small check. It was, whatever, $250 or something, to be used for his tuition at his school. And it really kind of drove home the fact that there's all of these little bits of things. We talk about, save $50 a month. Well, my gosh, if you can go get, your books paid for, or you can get, the dining plan paid for, and these little bitty increments of things, you're already doing this stuff. So take advantage of all of the opportunities that are out there. And there's probably, there are way more than just the broad, the big scholarship things you see advertised from the schools.
Yeah, I'm hearing from parents who are slightly ahead of me. They're like, there are merit-based scholarships that, kids can seek out and just do the homework and try to apply.
I had one too, Andy, from personal experience, which was, filling out the FAFSA. I watched my clients fill it out back when I was a financial planner, and it was always a bear. I know they've made it a little bit easier, but just take it question by question and fill it out. And if you get nothing your freshman year, most people give up. And what my daughter found, we got nothing freshman year, and starting sophomore year got a little bit of financial aid, but starting with my daughter's junior year, that's when organizations and companies began giving her scholarships. And if you think about it, that makes sense. Organizations that want literacy usually fund freshmen and sophomores. People in college have no idea, like Mary Beth was talking about her 8-year-old, no idea what your 8-year-old's going to do yet. Freshmen in college often is going to still change their major twice, right, before they get to junior year. So when kids get to become a junior, that's when companies start giving scholarships because they want to use it as a recruiting tool. And my daughter did much better her junior and senior year than she did her freshman and sophomore year. So I would tell people a big mistake people make is they give up too early. Keep applying every single year because the people handing out money change over time.
I would also say you just don't underestimate the amount of time that you spend in this area. I think a lot of parents and people are caught off guard with the amount of research that you need to do. And so whether it's hiring a consultant to assist with you if you have that kind of privilege in your family and you're able to afford it, or just getting a head start on it when the kids are transitioning, as OG mentioned, into college, or into high school early on, starting on to just looking at scholarships, looking at what's available, because you almost need to project manage this. You can set up a 529 plan and assume that you'll have enough money, but you still need to project manage getting your kid into college. I'm working with my sister right now and making sure my nephew's got his SATs. He's studying for the exam, and even those SATs, the exams are booked out months in advance. So if you're not getting in early for that impacts your college application. And so don't underestimate the amount of time and how early you need to start in this.
I'm throwing everything up against the wall. I was talking to my 16-year-old last night because I met a Miss New Jersey pageant winner. And I told my daughter, I said, maybe you should consider pageantry. And this is the daughter who does not want to wear any makeup and does not like to wear dresses. So she's like, yeah, I don't think that one's for me, but I'm willing to keep my eyes and ears open. So you got to make sure there's a good fit. We're going to go to segment 3. When it comes to health and finance, being prepared for unexpected health challenges is crucial. Understanding insurance coverage and the concept of value-based care is key. Value-based care focusing on patient outcomes makes healthcare more cost-effective, while comprehensive insurance coverage safeguards against unforeseen medical expenses. Economic stability in health isn't just about personal finance. It's intertwined with broader societal issues like housing and food security. Preparing financially for health-related life changes means being ready for costs associated with health emergencies or chronic conditions. It's not just about insurance. It includes emergency funds and potential career shifts. Investment in public health is vital for economic stability during health crises. Strong public health infrastructure helps cushion the financial impact of health emergencies. In essence, financial preparedness for health changes is about understanding healthcare systems and personal finance management. This knowledge helps in navigating health emergencies, ensuring financial implications are manageable, and focusing on recovery and well-being. Healthcare costs is another area like college tuitions where costs keep rising, not going down. And prior to this live stream, I just had a call with a client and their investment committee. I think 2 individuals are battling cancer right now. And I think we're all touched with, right? You know, somebody, either family member or friend, and somebody has a health crisis that they're dealing with that's totally unexpected. Stephanie, you talked about the emergency fund for relocating when you get a new job. Do you advise clients to build that health emergency fund? And how much should that be?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, this is where it's important to understand what your health insurance actually says. What are you on the hook for? Some people think, oh, I'm insured. I have insurance. I'm good. But there's co-pays, there's deductibles. A lot of people are now in the high deductible health plans, which is great. And that means your out of pocket is higher. So you have to build that into your cash planning. Even if you're young and healthy, or you think, oh, I'm doing good, you could trip and fall and break your ankle tomorrow, right? There's no predicting these health issues and when they might come up, right? You go to the eye doctor and all of a sudden you need super expensive glasses. You have dental work. It just, there's untold uncertainties there. So that's where I think integrating your cash reserves with what your health insurance covers and for whom, right? How many members of your family and what does that mean? You have to multiply it out to make sure that, hopefully you're in decent shape if these things hit.
Absolutely. You mentioned the high deductible plan. So I want to ask Josh, when it comes to health emergencies, how do long-term care insurance or health savings accounts, which the HSA would be part of a high deductible healthcare plan, how do those come into play?
I want to piggyback on Stephanie's comment about the out-of-pocket numbers. If you have a high deductible plan and you don't know what your out-of-pocket max is for the year, you're doing yourself a disservice because you can hit that number in a hurry. 2 teenage boys and a very athletic 8-year-old last year led us to reach our out-of-pocket maximum very early in the year. And the year before also with broken bones and surgery, and it just comes out of nowhere. So if you're building out your financial plan and you don't know what your out-of-pocket max is, that's a big liability that you're going to have to write a check for, might potentially have to write a check for. So that can help you decide how much money do you save in that HSA and where do you put it. A lot of attention gets put on HSAs because of how great they are from a tax saving standpoint. And, if you accumulate all this money, you'll be a gazillionaire when you're 65 and, and there nobody really audits it. So there's this, really cool way to have all this tax-free money at 65. But if along the way you're building up $15,000 and $20,000 a year healthcare bills on your credit card because you're not paying attention to your out-of-pocket maximum, that's kind of doing it the wrong way. You got to kind of balance both of those things out. So if you're building out your HSA plan, I would suggest that out-of-pocket maximum is the money that's in the cash portion of it. And that's not very sexy, and that's not going to give you any returns at all. But that's literally your healthcare emergency fund. You've got your regular emergency fund for other stuff, but the HSA, or at least a decent amount of the couple first years of contributions, should be in cash because that's what it's there for. There's also all of the stress around keeping track of these expenses for years and years and years. The government's not silly. They're going to wise up to all of these hacks that people have for these different things. And, we're saying, hey, we can accumulate this money for 30 years in a tax-free account and nobody's going to bat an eye at that. It's like, settle down. They'll figure it out. There's going to be a congressional hearing and all of a sudden we're going to have to produce all of our healthcare receipts from, 1996 to get the tax-free benefit. And, meanwhile, you're, biting off your, what do they say? Biting off your nose to spite your face by accumulating credit card debt because you can't pay the hospital bill out of pocket. So a healthcare cash flow plan, I think, especially if you have a high deductible plan, you need to know how you're going to write that out of pocket number should it happen to you, because it will someday. If it hasn't yet, it will.
Well, it sounded like at least your kids very efficiently all got injured in the same year last year.
Well, to be fair, they did it 2 years in a row. So we are 2-time award winners of out-of-pocket maximums. And then, the other side of that happens, we're a small business. We have small business employees, or, we're a small business employer. So that affects our healthcare premiums in the future. And it's a 2-year delay between the price increase and when we actually did stuff. So the stuff we did in 2022 is affecting our premiums in 24 because it takes a while to settle all that out. So, you have a big healthcare year and you think, okay, I'm out of the woods. You're not, because a year and a half from now, you're going to get a premium increase, right? Because, all the dust settling from that cost. So it's the gift that keeps on giving, children. That's the theme here today.
Mary Beth, any advice on how do you deal with or plan for these unpredictable health emergencies without compromising your other financial goals?
You wrap your children in bubble wrap. That's what you do.
No trampoline parks.
No trampoline parks. Yeah, we have that rule. That is one of the rules in our house. But really, it's about prioritizing. And so, as OG just mentioned, in terms of keeping that cash in your health savings account, if you're not prepared for that out-of-pocket expense, which we also hit our max last year in our household as well, if you're not prepared for it, it can really throw off your emergency fund, because that's a huge chunk of change that will then come out of your emergency fund. And so then you're replenishing the emergency fund. So if you're able to set it aside, if you're doing the health savings account, great. And if you don't have a health savings account, making sure that you are tacking it on to your emergency fund as well, because you're going to need to replenish it. So taking an eye each year as you're electing your insurance benefits, bumping up your emergency fund just a little bit if needed. The other thing that I really see is, so we're talking short-term injuries, right? So there's the out-of-pocket costs, there's hospital costs, there's those bills that are going to hit you. There's also the potential that you're not able to work. And then what happens? And so we're talking about health insurance and the coverage there. Hopefully your emergency fund can supplement. But when you do have some sort of long-term issue and you're out of work, that's where something like disability insurance comes into play, right? So, and I think it's an overlooked insurance, but our human capital, our ability to earn an income is one of our greatest assets. And so depending where you are in age, making sure that you understand whether it's employer benefit or if you need to supplement with a private policy, but the disability insurance from a long-term perspective, if you don't have, and you can't plan for that, that's where disability insurance does cover you, because your emergency fund only covers 3 to 6 months of expenses. And so looking at a group policy is definitely going to be the most affordable option if you do have it through your employer. But again, making sure you understand the coverage limits that are there. But I would say going into that's how you also hedge, is by making sure your income, your ability to earn an income is protected.
If I could just jump on that for a sec, I'm seeing one of my good high school friends this coming Monday, and she, when her second son was born, had some strange blood test results. Turns out she has a rare form of leukemia. She has been on disability for 22 years. Her youngest child is 22 years old now. So they've been able to keep their house in nice suburban New Jersey and keep their lifestyle, even though she could no longer, actually earn an income. So, you might think disability is not that common. It's very common. And the people who come to me asking about it are the ones who've seen it really hit friends or family.
I love the discussion of this, because I love the fact that disability coverage. I don't love the first part of this sentence, which is that back when I was an advisor, and I can tell by questions to the show that we get now, disability insurance, it is an extension long-term care, is the type of insurance nobody wants to talk about. People go, oh, it's not going to happen to me, right? Mm-hmm. And yet you look at the price tag on both of these, and you see the huge devastation that it can bring. Leads me to this maxim, I think, that everybody watching this needs to remember, which is, if insurance types cost a lot, those aren't necessarily just insurances you want to buy. Whatever is causing that is a risk that you want to make sure you have a strategy around. And so you want to have a strategy around disability. You want to have a strategy around catastrophic illness later in life that would mean a long-term care stay. And it's specifically because these actuaries are paid a ton of money to know where the risk is. And you could tell, because those premiums are so flipping high, that is where the risk is. Versus, as an example, a lot of people try to shortcut their disability insurance and instead take accidental death and dismemberment, which a lot of people don't know on your flex benefits is something a lot different, and it's cheap for a reason. You're probably not going to use it, especially if you have a desk job. I mean, what's the chance, if dismemberment means losing an eye, losing a finger, what's the chance if you have a desk job on a computer that you're flying along on your keyboard one day and you slice off your index finger between the J and K key? Probably not going to happen.
That is invaluable advice. Don't hit the J or the K.
Don't.
So
mind your P's and Q's, as they say.
As we're all looking at our keyboards right now.
Where's the
Are
J
they
and
next to
K?
each other?
Yeah, where's the J and K? I was just looking.
let's move to segment 4. Navigating retirement planning requires adaptability and foresight. Major life events, be it marriage, career changes, or the gradual transition into retirement, each demand a unique strategy to maintain financial stability. Deciding when to retire, known as the long goodbye, or adapting to career shifts, can impact your retirement approach significantly. It's important to recognize where you can advance and avoiding phases that hinder your financial journey. Resilience is key. Embracing change, whether entering retirement or undergoing personal transitions, requires flexibility. Retirement planning isn't just about savings. It's about adjusting your mindset to new life stages. From early savings to navigating post-retirement, understanding and preparing for each phase is essential. Life will throw curveballs that impact your retirement plans. Inheritances, career changes, or unexpected financial gains or losses all necessitate reevaluation of your strategy. Preparing for both predictable and unforeseen changes is vital. Effective retirement planning will likely require emotional, psychological, and financial readiness. Mary Beth, how do you approach this? I mean, there's the question of how much money do I need in retirement? So there's the financial side. But then how do you help clients to visualize like some of the non-financial aspects of retirement, like lifestyle, hobbies, and other things?
Yeah, I love what the transition just said there in terms of the emotional and psychological components of planning for this. And that's where it really hits. And so getting clients, sometimes people are come in so anxious and concerned about money and really stuck on this number and when can I quit? I want to be done. But getting people to connect and really visualize, the journey of their lives. And so I tend to work with those that are in their 30s, 40s, heading into their 50s. And there's a lot of life that happens in there. And so the ability to buckle up and be flexible is really important. And being as an advisor, I'm that sounding board that basically it's not, you're not giving permission, but you want them to know it's going to be okay. It's okay. Hey, if you do need to relocate, as we just talked about earlier, and you need to cut back on those retirement savings right now, here's the plan to get you back on track. Or, hey, you're through these major life transitions. Now's the time to really ramp up and not do the lifestyle creep, but to set more aside because who knows what's coming around the corner. And so really approaching it with flexibility is important, but making sure you're balancing it and prioritizing it. So no matter what, the earlier you start, the better when it comes to retirement. If we talked about getting our kids financially savvy for education, but getting them started as soon as possible in terms of setting aside for their retirement, fantastic. That sets them up in the long term. But starting with something small, compound interest along the way. But the flexibility is really important, and spending time visualizing what's coming. When you're living just day to day or year to year, it's hard to pivot, but planning in advance. Emergency fund is funded, right? But let's say an emergency happens, it's down to zero. You've used the funds. Well, you're likely going to cut back on retirement savings to replenish that account. And that's okay. That's just part of life. That's a hurdle. You're on the roller coaster. Be okay with that. We're here to kind of give peace of mind, and then you'll work to refund it, and then you'll turn back to retirement savings, or you'll make adjustments along the way and do both. But I think being the flexibility is really important, and that's that resiliency, that psychological, that emotional component. There's no end to this game of money, right? Money is with us through our lives, and that is the most important takeaway of all of this: is you can't check the box. There's no box check here, unfortunately.
Stephanie, how about you? Like, what role does emotional intelligence have in retirement planning?
Oh, I think it's huge. And, in your intro video, you talked about a mindset change. And I think one area that we all need a mindset change in as a society is this tagging retirement to age 65, or some people age 67 because they've figured out Social Security is now age 67. Is that really realistic if a lot of us are going to live to be in our 90s? So I have conversations with people about, okay, maybe it's not about hanging it up at 65. Is there a way you can continue to earn some income in some way or other, right? Doing part-time, switching, working at a little shop in your town, whatever it might be. Every dollar that you bring in to the household after quote unquote retirement is a dollar of your own you're not spending. So it just helps the longevity of your actual financial plan. So I think that's one of the things. I mean, most of the clients I talk to, they don't want to, become unengaged. They want to still be relevant and connected and making an impact after maybe they hang up their full-time job. So tying that to, is there a way you can continue to earn something? It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, purpose plays a huge role. Joe, you talk to a lot of people. Do you see any creative ways of generating income in retirement that you've seen talking to different experts or from your audience?
I think just changing the concept of retirement altogether makes sense to me, because speaking of one of those people, Wes Moss, who had the book, What the Happiest Retirees Know, the average very happy retiree has over 4 critical things that they love to do outside of their job. Now, some of those 4 may involve making money. In fact, I did see a study just a couple days ago. Makes sense when you think about the 4% rule, that that a $30,000 a year income replaces $750,000 of assets for that year. I mean, that's a powerful thing if you keep making money. But I see people keep working too long in things that they don't love, and that's not really what retirement is all about. So there's this teeter-totter. And it's funny because we talk to money nerds so much that I think with what Mary Beth said and Stephanie talked about with the emotional component and making sure that's there, I think we're speaking directly to money nerds there, because money nerds think it is all about the number. But I think the wider universe, I had this aha just this last week, actually. The wider universe does exactly the opposite. All they're dreaming about is leaving this place, right? Don't think about the money at all. And so if you don't think about the money at all, you're in trouble. But then you become a money nerd and you just focus completely on the dollar, and you're still in trouble because you show up at retirement and you don't have those 4 things. By the way, the average retiree has 2 things they love to do outside of work. And Wes points out through all these studies that he's done with retirees that you need at least 4. The cool thing is you get 2 4. One of those probably might involve making some money, but probably gives you a lifetime of entertainment and value.
We talk about making work optional a lot, right? That's this idea of retirement is really just work optionality, and then having that freedom. And then same goes back to the purpose. Where are you going to spend your time? A lot of people don't imagine quitting work together, having some sort of purpose, but optional to leave the job that you despise.
I love the flexibility.
I just talked to a guy who, for our real estate podcast, at 25 years old, he got this mentor in his 40s who helped him buy his first rental property, talking about how you want to retire as soon as you can. You want to make this, you want to be able to do whatever you want to do. So he buys this rental property. Within a couple of weeks of buying the first property, the mentor passes away in this unfortunate job site accident. And then he realizes that nothing is written in stone and that I have to retire even faster. So here's a guy at 25 years old who's on this mission to retire. He gets to 28 years old, maybe 29, and he has this complete nervous breakdown, goes to his doctor's office. Doctor says, there's nothing wrong with you physically. This is completely mental. He's living this hustle culture, but it's because he's so worried about this, getting off the treadmill. He's so worried about getting off the treadmill that he's on it more than ever before. And what's funny is during that time, he had a guy that told him, you can have $1 million, or you can grow your net worth to 2 million and give it away. And you still have $1 million, and you're going to feel so much more fulfilled being a part of a greater community and a greater, well, I guess community is it. You're going to feel so much better. He started then giving away $10 of each of his pieces of real estate. Whenever he bring in a renter, he would give $10 away. And what's funny is I'm talking to this guy. He's only in his early 30s now. And the concept of retirement is completely gone. It is complete. He doesn't care if he ever retires. He's like, this is so amazing. It's so incredible giving to other people and being a part of this thing. And I think for a lot of people, especially in the FIRE movement, just this idea of getting out, getting away from something, like running away from it, is so overblown. I think we seriously got to start latching on to what are those 4 things that I'm really passionate about outside of my job.
Thank you. Let's bring it home with our final segment. Life's changes, such as marriage, divorce, or the birth of a child, profoundly impact how you should manage your estate. Marriage or divorce often necessitate a complete reassessment of your estate plan. The arrival of a child calls for careful consideration of guardianship and trusts. These legal mechanisms ensure your child's welfare and financial security, and reflect your wishes for their future. No matter your age, you should address end-of-life planning. This includes decisions about healthcare directives and living wills, ensuring your preferences are honored in critical situations. Estate planning is not a static process, but a dynamic one that must evolve with your life. Updating your plan ensures it remains effective, reflecting your current intentions and circumstances. Effective estate planning is about safeguarding your legacy and ensuring that your estate is handled exactly as you wished, providing security and peace of mind for you and your loved ones. I think many of us don't like to discuss our mortality. Josh, I'm wondering, how do you deal with communications and the conversations with clients, those who may be reluctant to discuss end-of-life issues?
I'm smiling because I mentioned 10 years ago we moved to Dallas from Michigan, and every summer we go back to northern Michigan and spend a decent amount of time there with our families at a lake place. And we were driving home one year. This was probably 7 years ago. We were driving home, and my wife and I, it's a long drive, 20 some hours, and we're driving and it's quiet. And I said, well, what are you thinking about? And she goes, well, can we talk about something that have been it's been on my mind? I said, yeah, well, kids are watching, their iPads or whatever. What's up? She goes, I don't think it can be my sister. And I was like, can't be your sister. What do you mean? And she's like, like if something happens to us. I was like, oh, thank God. I was thinking the same thing because we had just spent, a couple of weeks with our family. Not that we don't love our sister-in-law, or my wife doesn't love her sister. It's just different, right? We changed our mind on how we wanted to make sure our kids were taken care of if something awful would happen to us. And it said in your video there just a second ago about having these plans be flexible. When we first had Alex, who's now 17 almost, our life was a lot different, and now we have 3 kids and businesses and property, and there's just all of this stuff, and you have to account for that, but you also have to account for not just the money aspect of it. Like, I want this money to go to this person, or I want this stuff to go to this organization that I care about. You have to think about all of these other things around how do you want your kids to be raised? One of the things that was really important to us was we've developed this life, and all of our kids have had friendships down here now in Texas. If something happens to us, we don't want them to go move back to Michigan. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just that's not where their home is right now. We need a different plan for that. So we've accounted for that. And so I think much like Mary Beth said, there is no end game with money. It's always in your life. We do have an end game. It will happen. Joe's got this great line. I don't remember where you got this from, Joe. Something like you always end in the middle of your story. It never ends at the end of your story or something. You can tell us where you got that from, but that's how it feels. So you need to have a well thought out plan on this, and just burying your head in the sand and going, I'm not worried about it, is really doing the people that you care about a disservice, not just with the money aspect of it, but all the stuff that goes with, taking care of your business, so to speak.
Stephanie, how do you build it, like estate planning, into your financial planning process?
I've got a lot of clients on the opposite end, right? They are now dealing with being executors of their parents' estates. They have become the inheritors. And I think that brings it into sharp focus, right? If things are a mess, if there's, accounts in 12 different places, and they forgot they had this business interest over here that the child as executor, the adult child, right, now has to track down and sort out. It's really a lot easier to have that client then think, I don't want to leave this mess for my people. I need to get this all tied up. So, if someone hasn't lived through it, sometimes even just sharing the stories, right? I have one client who cared for her elderly father, and then he passed away and she did his estate, and then cared for her elderly mother, and then she passed away and she did her estate. And now her sister is having health issues, and so she might have to step in and be guardian for the niece. Like, it's just endless. So even sometimes sharing those stories with clients who haven't seen it quite that up close brings it home and makes it a little bit more real, because it's not stuff we want to think about, but it's such a gift to have planned it out to your loved ones when the shit hits the fan, because it's gonna.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that. We see the generational shift. We see aging parents and dealing with that, and then it trickles down. So I think each generation realizes that this is something that we have to face, we need to discuss, we need to deal with, and hopefully deal with in an optimal way. Mary Beth, any comments on, like, do you advise clients on how to choose an executor or a trustee?
I mean, it's really about trust. I have the same issue as OG. My kids are 6 and 8. We've changed our guardians 3 times as well. So, and same thing in terms of where we're at and how fluid it is and flexible your life is. And so I do advise clients in terms of making sure they're thinking through who they're choosing, having discussions with them as well. But the biggest thing that I advise clients, it is, check, make sure you have your trust, check, make sure you have your power of attorney, and you're thinking through those things. But when you're thinking about the estate, that word doesn't encompass all of the emotions that go into this. You're talking about if you have minor children, if you have a business that you've built, a legacy that you're hoping to leave behind. One of the big things that we do with clients now is creating a document. And so, and writing a letter. And so I even did this myself during my sabbatical last year. My brother-in-law, who's our executor, I wrote a 5-page document, and it just got it all out of, like, here's how, you're the executor. Here's how we want our kids to be raised. Here's what's important to us for our values. We do charitable giving. Here's this account that's titled this way, but here's the intention behind it. And here's what's on my heart. And here's what I hope they know. And, here's where your beliefs might, differ, but I'm hoping that you would lead this way. And so getting a document in order, there's an estate plan, but there's also a letter that you can send with it. And I think that's often an overlooked kind of tool and strategy. It's not a legal document, right? The letter is not the legal aspect, but it does document your intentions and your hopes and wishes. That's where that goes. And creating that is actually a little cathartic for yourself. It's emotional, but it's cathartic because you can kind of have peace of mind that it's there. We did it in a Google Doc, so we can edit it and share it at any point in time. Didn't include any account numbers or anything, but I really recommend that to clients as well. And those that have done it, find peace of mind around this aspect, because it's really overwhelming. It's a lot of paperwork. There are checklists and such, but it's that emotional component that really weighs on a lot of people. And so getting kind of pen to paper, I think, is an overlooked tool in taking control here.
That's a great one. Joe, any closing thoughts? You want to bring us home?
Just don't have 2 people for one of those roles. I see people that can't choose, and so they choose 2. And then there's always some fight, and the fight is always about something ridiculous. It's never about the big stuff. Have one person that can follow exactly what you want to have happen. One person who's comfortable being seen maybe as a jerk by other family members, but doesn't care because they're going to follow what you ask them to do. Just don't split it up.
Well, thank you. I want to thank all the panelists for joining today and talking about life's transitional milestones. I think some of the takeaways are that, planning ahead pays dividends, and it pays to be adaptable, flexible, and this is all a work in progress. You're always trying to prepare for a rainy day, whether it's health issues, or preparing for retirement, or preparing for education, but these are all things that we can plan ahead for, and plans change. So be adaptable and adjust accordingly. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I encourage everybody to follow our panelists. You can find Mary Beth at abacuswealth.com. Stephanie is at sophiafinancial.com. Joe Saul-Sehy at joesaul-sehy.com. And Josh Bannerman, bannermanwealth.com. Thank you all for joining as panelists today and sharing your insights and expertise. I think we covered a lot today. To everybody, we're off next week because my kids have winter break. They're off from school. And so I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but I'm not going to be on this live stream. Join us.
But it'll be expensive.
I have to plan ahead. It could be expensive. Hopefully nobody gets injured.
Yes,
Join us in 2 weeks. Wednesday, February 28th. We have episode 24, where we're going to be talking about the power of giving, making an impact through philanthropy. So as they say, giving is living. And I think it'll be a fun discussion, a great episode. Until next time, do something that scares you, because that's where the magic happens.